All right. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I am joined by Pooja Desai. She is the author of the new children's book, Bua Believes in Your Magic. Thank you for being here. Really excited to talk to you, and it's great to see your face and kind of see the person behind the story.
Oh, this is just so humbling. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I want to just start by introducing your book and what you want readers, particularly like parents, children, like what should they know about the story you just wrote?
So, I think the most important thing that I would like for everybody to know is that this book was originally written for the children in my family during 2020 when life was hard for everyone, and we needed to figure out ways to be a little bit more mindful. So, as I was sharing it with the kids in the family, the main goal is trying to make sure that we can equip these children with these tools so that they can practice mindfulness at a young age.
So, before writing this and before venturing into the world of publishing, what was your background that kind of led to, you wanting to write a book for children?
So, I like to say a lot, I wear a lot of different heels in my life. Um, Long story short, my background is 25 years of healthcare experience, still in healthcare as well. I run a region for one of the most amazing hospitals in the world. And I also help with mindfulness in the hospital, but I run operations. So it's been quite the journey, even on the medical side, which is kind of what brought me into helping to write for children.
And mindfulness is such a key component to your book. And I feel like just in general discourse, we're talking so much about mindfulness. And I feel like people either are know so much about it or people are like, what is it? So like how would you and this you could do this really effectively because you convey concepts to young readers and children. So how would you describe what mindfulness is?
So I think the way I would describe it is mindfulness is being aware of your emotion in the moment and taking control and taking a pause in that very moment to help really level set your mindset.
And I think that is something that could be it's a practice that's difficult to do, and I know from experience because it's so easy to get caught up in like letting your thoughts race about something ahead of you, something behind you, and just focusing on the present moment is it's such a skill that in a habit that once you learn how to do it, and I've found as I've been like venturing into my own mindfulness journey, it makes such a big difference, and it's so especially for children, I think it's so powerful for them to really learn this skill. And what do you think, as someone who has worked in healthcare, who is like a champion for mindfulness and wellness, what would you say that some of the biggest challenges that our youth and children face today?
The lack of resources,
Hmm.
um, tapping into your emotions. It's okay to be emotional, understanding those emotions. Growing up, we were taught, get over it. It's not that, right? We have to be very mindful about why are these emotions happening? What can we do as adults to help them along through their journey of mindfulness before they become adults? And then it's too late to try to reset that mindset then. So being aware of their emotions at a younger age will help them really develop the key skills that we all need to have. So in the event like something tragic happens, or even if it's, something as simple as going to school and being anxious and taking those deep breaths before you walk in, or playing sports and taking those deep breaths and just understanding that you're going to have these emotions, but how to really, channel them at a younger age.
Yeah, and that's so important because like kids, you know, adults now look back at our lives and there's so many things that we're like, man, I wish I wish I knew that when I was a kid. Because you're right, like, the mental health conversation, the mindfulness conversation really, even it really didn't start becoming, I feel like as difficult as the pandemic was, I feel like at that moment was really when the shift started to happen. And that's, a bit of it was out of necessity too, because it was such a difficult time, especially like you mentioned, you wrote this story during the pandemic, but it's so good to see, and I think it'll be really impactful for children and for the next generation. And you have a pretty illustrious career. So there's a lot of different ways to message and to make a difference. So what made you decide, like, okay, I want to make a book for this and make a children's book to be published and released?
So, what started off as my way of saying this is our family recipe in lieu of like actually having like food, this mindfulness journey is our family recipe. I recognize and realize that you have to start with the kids because they're the ones that were almost overlooked during this time due to the fact that, they were the ones cut off from school. And although we were also, in this position where everybody was impacted one way, shape, or form, it's really something that I feel that being able to talk to children or communicate how to use these tools for kids would just go so far. So I use it in so many different settings. I talk to the kids within, a hospital setting. I bring story time to them in a hospital. I teach them how to be mindful before they go into surgery because, just again, by reading this book, calming down, going to surgery, that's already, they're scared. And how do we get them to a point where we can make sure that they're not afraid or they're going to be afraid, but controlling those emotions, I think is so important. And which is why I did it. It's harder to relate to the adults when they're already set in their mindset.
Yeah. And like I think what is really valuable is learning how to feel any emotion. Like it's okay to be scared or upset or frustrated. And that's something that even I look back, I'm like, you know, so many people who try to push feelings away, and like we just can't do that.
Embrace it. They're
And
there for a reason.
exactly. And I think the way you've written your book and the way you've conveyed it is really, really compelling, and it'll really be helpful to allow children to see that and to embrace it. And as they grow, it'll be really powerful in their own lives. And one other thing that I really enjoy about you and like your book is that you really emphasize multiculturalism. And as me, someone who is born and raised here, I've lived in Pennsylvania my whole life. I've only lived in Pennsylvania, um, but I've there's such value to multiculturalism that a lot of people here don't fully understand. And I think it's something that needs to be ingrained in our youth's lives. So what what do you think is so important about sharing the benefit and the power of the multicultural experience to children?
So I think the benefit, there's so many different benefits. One benefit being you're teaching them diversity at a younger age, right? We're not waiting for them to, start developing this in school or when by the time they get into their career. Blending, different cultures and being in America and seeing that that is so possible and what that looks like in my family. Everyone is, either mixed, colored, blended, or loved. Either way, they're loved. And bringing the multiculturalism to the family, and extending it out into the community, if people find that they can relate to you more, right? Because representation matters and not everyone looks the same. And I think having this impact of a, multicultural family that, that we all embrace in our household just is made it a lot easier to be able to connect to anybody, right? Because when I'm connecting to the children, I'm not really hyper focused on that. I'm connecting to their souls. I'm connecting to their, them as a child. So I think that there's so many different ways, but again, diversity being one of them and bringing that into their lives at a early age is something that I found very helpful during this journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one thing that I personally have really been enjoying in my own life is, so my wife, her family's from Aruba, and Aruba is so multicultural. It's amazing. Like I remember when, like, 8 years ago when we were just dating, like I met her little cousin who was like 4 or 5 years old and she spoke like four languages. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So, there's just so much value to it. And I hope to see, in addition to like America becoming more focused on mental health, but like that's huge, but the multicultural component is also super important because it's so valuable, and the representation aspect is just like, it's everything.
With people like us, we're a movement. That'll happen.
Hmm. And so, I think that kind of, um, makes me wonder then, as someone who wants to lead a movement and is leading a movement, what do you want people to remember most about your book?
You can lead with kindness. You
Hmm.
can, you know, these tools of believing in yourself. It's amazing what happens when you actually believe in yourself. There's nothing you can't accomplish, no matter what your age is. The only limitations you have are the ones you set on yourself. So I think that, knowing that if you could start believing in yourself from when you're younger, there's no telling the pinnacles
Hmm.
that our children will reach.
I think I think that's perfectly said. And you are very, um even in like when people look you up and see your author bio, like you're very proud of your own multicultural background. How has that helped you extend your reach and, do your part to share your mission and share your purpose?
I think it made me become more aware of not only my surroundings and my family, and making sure that everybody felt like they belonged. I think that's been something that's been very big for us, and blending cultures and making sure that, like what you mentioned, your wife is from Aruba. Like, everyone is mixed: Indian, Spanish, Indian, Chinese, Jamaican, Indian,
Mhm.
Italian, Indian, Irish. So we can keep going. But the beauty of it is everyone learns Hindi, everyone, learns each other's language. We have what we call potluck days, because it's like an international holiday for Thanksgiving. For us, everybody's there with the foods that they bring in. There's, we're accepting. We are a loving family. We try to let everyone know that it doesn't matter who you're born to, how you got here, you're precious and you matter. And that's what I think it is. A lot of people lack being heard, felt, validated, loved. You don't get that here. And that helps me with my reach when I'm connecting to any child, no matter what their race is or their situation is.
Yeah, and I think, making people, and especially children who are so vulnerable feel valued is so powerful. And I think, with you, you're doing so much to help other people learn a lot about themselves and help children learn a lot about themselves. But, when I work with authors and I speak with authors, a lot of times the process of writing a book is a bit transformative in itself. So have you learned anything like new about yourself throughout the journey, of writing and publishing a
Yes,
book?
I did. I learned to be more confident in myself and the work to date. I didn't think it was going to be through a book, but I always look for ways to help, whether it's in the community, whether it's even in my organization. How could I make processes better or, more efficient? And I think that learning everything, and pairing up with like BookBaby and Bookshop, and learning this journey has been nothing but amazing. It has been so much fun, even, packaging it all together, getting the manuscript together. It's just amazing to see, and having such creative input into this book has been just outstanding. So I'm learning a lot. Talking to the children has always been easy, But as these crowds are getting bigger, as I started kicking off my Barnes and Nobles tour. You learn to be more confident because, it's a hard group. Those kids ask
Yeah,
those questions. It's a hard group.
I know kids are like, sometimes the question kids ask, I'm like, how did you think of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And you have to answer because if not, they're going to ask again.
I know. Yeah, the book tour stuff is so great too. And one of the best parts about writing a children's book is like you could really get in front of so many kids and be in schools, be in libraries, Barnes and Noble. It's just like great to because you could read the whole story to them. They're not long books. And I think that is because you could see from the process, like from start to finish. And you mentioned you were doing some events. Have you gotten like to do some readings with kids yet?
Yes. So I kicked off my Barnes and Nobles tour 11/11, the same date the book was released. And I've been doing readings. I bought a reading and book signing to a children's hospital because unfortunately those kids won't ever get an opportunity to go to a Barnes and Nobles. That
Hmm.
was so well received. And I have about 4 to 6 Barnes and Nobles tours lined up all throughout January. So I'm very excited for all the opportunities. I've talked in a couple of different areas where kids kind of need a little bit different attention. So this book also helps with some of the kids with like sex trafficking issues
Hmm.
that, it's just a really the beauty of this book. It's a good book overall tool. It could be utilized in any shape or form, but it really is meant to help heal wherever it can.
Yeah, and well, on your book tour, like if you're in the Philadelphia area, let me know.
I,
I'd
I
love
sure will be. You just
to.
tell me where to show up, Joe. I'll go.
Awesome. That I'm excited, and like I said, I'm not far from Jersey either. So, what was it then like like kind of like an authorly question here, but what was your process like of writing the book? So you started it, you know, pandemic already was like almost 4 years ago. So what was like the process, the journey like of writing, creating, illustrating, and making it come to life?
So the process was actually relatively quick. What I started doing in 2020 was using some of the techniques with the family. The actual book started, I would say I wrote it in February during a snowboarding trip, which I chose not to do the snowboarding, but I figured I'm gonna just start writing. And I wrote 24 books that day, short stories, very similar to this. It covers everything from diversity, sickness, mental health. It's just phenomenal. But the journey itself, really 6 months. The minute I called BookBaby, everything just worked out. They took a lot of the burden off of me. So I just had to hand in a manuscript basically. And then we took it, and it's what ha it's already done more than I expected it to do. And I'm excited to see how far it's gonna go.
That's amazing. And it's cool that like especially with remaining independent, you can just get your story out right away. You don't have to wait. And
Mhm.
it's cool that like it happens so fast. And I'm really happy to see that like finding success and people are resonating with the story. And as now you a storyteller, do you find that there are any other authors, storytellers that you personally look up to who have been kind of helpful for you to like find inspiration, sometimes just that extra spark you need as you're writing?
Yes, there's a couple. Oh my, are they? There's so many. I would probably say the ones that really stick out for me is um there's Humble the Poet, and he does a lot. He really may not even know, but he helped me a lot through 2020 as I was reading and hearing his books. There's Lily Singh, who did a lot for mental health as well. During 2020, I was reading her books. There's so many different people that I actually do look up to, and just reading is part of my life. So, I mean, if I started listing, I like to take the best practices from everybody's book and try to figure out how to implement it in my real life.
Yeah, and you kind of make it your own then. And
Yeah.
then, you'll find that someone will be like, oh, like Pooja Desai. I love like the way she tells a story. And it's like you're part of that creative chain. And I think it's
Yeah.
really cool. Just to you're inspired, but you have your own place in the space, which is amazing.
Thank you. It is amazing. Every day I'm excited about this. This is how I know I'm supposed to be doing it. I'm so passionate.
That's and that's like the best type of work. So are you working on any other projects at the moment that are of a similar note, like any other initiatives you're focusing on?
So I am working with a couple of different hospitals to get these books in. One of the initiatives is getting them in pre-surgical packets. So, prior to children having surgery, this book will be, presented to them. It's part of their, the night before what they will have to do. And reading the book with the parents is one of the things that I think, although we're reading it to the kids, I feel like the parents are also taking deep breaths.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a short enough story that it's not one of those stories that if they say read it again, you as a parent really don't want to because it's so long and you want them to get to bed. So I think that's initiative. And again, I have a very open door policy. So whatever is a way to help heal, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, that's, when I think about who would benefit most from your book, I mean, it's the list is so big, but like you mentioning, like a child who has to go into something so scary, like just like getting that inspiration to take a breath and really feel where they are and find comfort, I think is really amazing. I think it's great that you're doing that. And I I'm hoping that, like, I think this is something that I don't know if are you doing it regionally, or is it like, because this is something that like nationally would be amazing. Just hospital networks, right? Like they're
Yes.
just
Yeah.
so that would be so cool to see it grow. So I'm really, really happy for you.
I agree. I'm excited to see it grow as well. And just seeing what it has done even on a local level
Hmm.
and seeing the kids. I mean, it's something different when you see a little human running behind you screaming Theo Bua with a little
Yeah.
ivy pole and I'm like, oh God, they're so cute. And then
Yeah.
it's also heartbreaking because some of these kids aren't going to make it and you know that. And how do you have them believe in magic knowing that they're sick?
Yeah.
And yet they're the most resilient, they're the most happy, they're the most humble because they're taking it day by day. And that's where we are. We're not 7 years ahead of ourselves or 2 years behind. We are in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's all we truly have.
And that's a message that I need to hear, adults need to hear. So just like thank you. It's really just what you're doing is amazing. The work is very beautiful and meaningful. So um, I'm looking forward to following your adventure and your journey in this space. And for others who do want to stay up to date with you, what are like being an independent author, like you're also almost like a small business person. Do you like use social or have like a website? What are like your channels where people could?
I do. I have so it's amazing because it's really family owned right now. My daughter is my editor. She has me on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I have a website which is .com. So I'm there and anything that I'll be doing will be on those outlets and platforms.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I plug everything when, in the descriptions, in the transcripts. So I'll make sure that people know exactly exactly where to find you.
Perfect.
Well, I don't have any other questions for you. I don't know if you have any, last comments for viewers, for potential readers, but this has been a really great conversation. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, I appreciate you being a part of my journey and allowing me to be a part of yours, Joe. And thank you so much. This is so humbling. And here's my little magic wand.
I
Follow
love
me.
it.
Follow the wand.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, and we will talk soon.
All right, talk to you later.